owned by S. Grupals, a company based in Culver City, California. So it's still fucking communist. Hello and welcome to all of our California viewers. Most of you have left anyway.
All right, let's see here.
California, that is.
Yeah, they're running away from California as fast as they can.
Well, it's run by a Weinstein. His name's Mark, but...
Any relation?
No, I don't think so. He's their CEO. He doesn't have his own... Near the end of its beta testing cycle.
All right, here comes the intro. All right, welcome to the Time Spent Poorly show. I am your host, along with co-host Hudds, right over here to my left, and we are here tonight. Brother Ron is absent this evening. He's got some other affairs to attend to, not extramarital or otherwise, but
hard to do extramarital when you're not married.
Yeah, I like how it's extra. Like it's like. I got extras.
Why are you so extra?
Anyway, so tonight we're going to talk about a little bit of just monopolies and how they work in our country and kind of how they might be the way that things are headed and the way things will probably ultimately go over time. But we'll talk about it.
Maybe the way things should be.
And maybe the way things should be. HBO Max, their gamble with their discount offer through the month of March, and we'll talk about that and kind of whether or not it will pay off. There's a little article that we'll kind of broach on that. We've got some political news. Biden's executive order on advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government.
And seriously, what the fuck does that mean?
I have no idea. We'll talk about it. The problem with tying one's identity to a particular ideal. Hudds is going to lead this one tonight, but I think I've got some opinions to weigh in on this. And then we've also got our Conspiracy Foil Hat section, Global Consciousness Project, a little Reddit theory / supposition that was posted that we can kind of dig into a little bit.
Oh, yeah, that one was interesting.
It definitely was.
I read that last week.
But, so, I guess we'll just start the show.
Onward and upward.
Yeah.
So we were kind of bullshitting while we were getting stuff set up. Both of us were running a couple of minutes late. And I was looking at this little bar along the top of StreamYard here, and I was like, Jesus, we stream on a lot of different
platforms,
yeah. And whatever the fuck they call them now. But, you know, we've got Twitch there, we've got Periscope there, the YouTubes.
Yeah, we have a YouTube, we've got like 3 different Facebook pages that we stream to, 4. A couple Twitches that we run out to. We've got our main Twitch, and I think there's some other ones that you can get on with, but I just haven't.
Yeah.
Because it's just, there's so many things to sign in with, or sign in on.
And then you said, you know, Periscope's just getting absorbed by
Twitter. Twitter's going to eat them up, or they already own Periscope, so I guess it's
just going to
not doing enough to warrant having it exist as its own entity, so then Twitter's going to absorb it.
Why steal the title of an old Kelsey Grammer movie if you don't have to? Somebody else can make something
down Periscope.
Way down the line, and it's like, yeah, because then maybe everybody could go to one place instead of a dozen places.
It would be nice. Well, and it's the whole thing with streaming services, the way they make Edwardo has all the streaming services.
Right.
It's not by design. It's not like I'm like, I need them all.
Yeah.
It's like there's content that I want to watch on a lot of those things, and so I end up biting the bullet and buying that stuff and paying for that stuff. But
yeah, the only one you didn't have was the WWE Network, wasn't it?
Right.
And now that's going to CBS All Access.
Yeah. And the reason...
So you will have...
No, it's going to NBC, Peacock.
Okay, yeah, Peacock. So you legitimately will have all of them then. Instead of we're kind of lying in that one because he doesn't have that one.
Well, and HBO Max has a smart setup, and that's why I would argue that it's one of the better streaming services, because it has like this overarching umbrella over all these other titles. We've got Warner Brothers, bunch of Cartoon Network stuff.
Snag other.
Well, no, it's just their catalog already encompasses a lot of those.
They've got a ton of good stuff just under the HBO label. There's a bunch of great stuff.
Yeah, and then they've got Turner Classic Movies and shit like that, and all the Warner stuff, and
tons of great stuff.
They're doing the Warner the new theatrical Warner releases this year are all going to be delivered to HBO Max at the same time for I think a month each movie.
Yeah.
So that's kind of and we've talked about this before, but that's what makes that platform beneficial over others, like even say Netflix. Netflix, I think, did well. In my opinion, it did better when it was kind of gobbling all these other pieces, but then everybody else decided they wanted some of that Netflix money and created their own streaming networks. And so basically it's taken the cord cutter notion and fucked it, because that was the whole reason I left cable was I didn't want to have. I guess now I can have things I want, but now I have shit I don't want on things that mixed in with things that I do want.
Yeah. Like I wish I could just order.
Like if I had a cable, I could just the shows I wanted. Now I just want shows.
But I have to wait for the whole season to come out, and then I have to pay like $50 for the season, or wait for it. Like I did with the first season of American Gods. It was on like mega sale on the Xbox. And so I have that and the John Wick movies on my Xbox because they were all on sale and I had points to use. And so I didn't actually pay for them.
You just cash in your points.
10,000 Xbox points. And I got John Wick 1 and 2 and the first season of American Gods. And which is nice. I mean, I got to see them and I can watch John Wick whenever I want. But I have to go watch it on my Xbox. I can't just pull it up on my iPad and fall asleep to it. I have to fall asleep in my chair to it. And that sucks. Because my chair, while comfortable, is not where I want to sleep.
Right.
But back to the monopolies thing, like, wouldn't it be nice if everything was just under one thing?
Oh, yeah.
And
I think we're eventually going to get there. I think like we talked about like growing pains and stuff with technology and kind of like how we're in this like acne laden teenage phase. And I think this is part of that.
We're in that awkward
and
15.
We're trying to we're trying to figure out what matters. And I think just in general, boy, this will play really well into our later conversation. Just in general, the ones that hold the puppet strings want to basically this is kind of how I feel, and I don't feel like it's a conspiracy theory so much as it is just it's like almost something that's just kind of slowly happening. And it's commercialization, advertising, and all that stuff is being done so in a way and built in a way that it's making us basically just kind of drones to this overarching thing that's just trying to sell us. We're the customer, like we're just constantly being sold merchandise, whatever it happens to be, whether it's pharmaceuticals, fast food, the pharmaceuticals to treat the fast food condition. But like all that stuff, like all these prescription drugs and stuff, like I watch more prescription drug commercials now than I think ever. And I felt like it was a lot before, but it's almost whenever I'm watching ads, it's either I need to buy a new truck or get a prescription.
Go back to, did you ever see Joe Somebody?
Yes.
And it's a Tim Allen movie with the cute lady from Happy Gilmore. And he works for a drug company, and one of the running gags is in the background, there's always a commercial for the pharmaceutical company that he works at. And as the movie goes on, the side effects on the drug gets progressively
increasingly worse. Yeah.
And unexpected explosive gas, and then like pants shitting, and then death is like the last three of them all kill you. And they're just in the background, and it's not really a part of the movie. But
it's like an Easter egg.
Yeah, it's just a little gag that they keep doing, and it's hilarious, and two, it's not like it's
not that
wrong.
far from
like
reality. Some of those antidepressant drugs will cause worse depression than they're trying to prevent.
In more than 40% of the people that take them.
Yeah.
Is it really worth it? Like, am I going to risk my kid
and
with
these are
Probably
things
not.
that have been approved by the FDA, and then you wonder why people balk at the idea of a vaccine that's been rush approved by the FDA.
But it hasn't even been rush approved.
It's not approved. It's not approved. It's approved for emergency use only, right?
Right, and you have to sign a
right.
5-page
because I read that on
says,
I think it was the CDC or a vaccine site or whatever. It's not been approved,
right?
And they make very sure, or they make it very clear that it's not been approved, but that they
make it kind of cloudy that it hasn't.
Right, but it's still good for you.
Yeah,
this hasn't been approved, but you should take it.
And you sign a waiver that you can't sue them for any injury caused.
Right.
So no, I'm not going to take that, and that doesn't mean I'm anti-vax. Because I still think the DDP shot is good, or DDT. What is it?
Diphtheria?
Whatever the one that...
Diphtheria, yeah, DTaP.
DTaP, yeah.
DDT's like that shit they spray on the crops that kills
DDT's
people.
Jake the Snake Roberts finisher. And also kills people. But no, there's all kinds of little things that they make it sound like, well, Operation Warp Speed made it so it rushed it through FDA approval and through its trials, and like, no, it didn't. It didn't get all of its trials done. They're still in the third stages of proper trials.
Right. And one would argue that more people had done the trials than people that actually came in and got the vaccine before we started seeing fewer people had come and actually gotten the vaccine and were having issues than people that probably had entered into the trial,
right?
Because they have to be handpicking some of these people that are doing the trials based on their health and stuff, and so they're not there's no algorithm that's kind of like factoring in what people's prevailing health conditions are.
Yeah, well, and Hank Aaron took it, and they were really pushing that Hank Aaron took it, and then
2.5 weeks later he's dead.
2.5 weeks later he's dead.
Now he was 86.
He was 86.
He was also dead in my eyes from the day I was born because this was a butterfly, or not a butterfly effect, but a Mandela effect thing for me. I, for as long as I remember, thought Hank Aaron was already dead.
Right, but he quit playing baseball like 4 years before we were born.
Right. And so the way he was, so it was 70s.
76, 77, he quit playing baseball.
Yeah, and but he was portrayed as this hero, and I think I compared it to like Paul Bunyan or
yeah, he was
like a living legend that was alive, but he was like any literature that they showed us, it was always like this. He broke all these barriers and stuff, and which was fine.
Yeah,
but it was done in a way like they never. It was always like this is what he did.
But he was like Superman,
and not that. Oh, and also
Muhammad
he's still
Ali,
alive, right?
And Muhammad Ali was not in the spotlight too much after a while because he was really sick.
But we still knew he was alive,
right?
Up until the point that he wasn't. But
you ever wonder if he didn't have Parkinson's and that was just concussion syndrome?
Oh, it could be
because he got punched in the head a lot, and he was one of the better Dodgers.
Yeah.
In his weight class. Like, he avoided a lot more punches than most people his size.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, it could have been that CTE or whatever it is.
Yeah. I spend a lot of time swimming through the conspiracy waters. And the more I look at it, the more I wonder, like, who cares? Like, if there's some weird, like, Luciferian conspiracy that's trying to take over the world, the fuck do I care anymore?
Yeah, and the other thing is every conspiracy theory is almost it's built in a way that's like well, you'll see like the memes that'll be like the collective consciousness basically, or like going with whatever the mainstream media tells them. Mm-hmm. And then the people that are on the opposite end of that are the people that are going for the facts, or they're analyzing the facts as they see them. And it's always the facts. It's never like we're analyzing the information. It's always the facts, which always just is off. It's off-putting to me because it's like, well, are they the facts, or aren't, like, you're holding so tightly to that belief that this is the true fact. That is it really though? And so it makes me question everybody's ideals, because we have a long way to go tonight. But
did you watch the city council meeting last night?
I didn't, but you did.
We have one councilman who even gives a shit about information, and he was pulling up the data. Apparently they had one last week too, where it wasn't an open meeting. It was broadcast, but they didn't have. It wasn't like, hey,
they didn't make a plan. It was just kind of
It was just an informational thing, and they had a guy talking about, this is how things have gone since we implemented a mask mandate, and the infection rate has gone down, but also they've been testing the wastewater, which apparently you can get all of your COVID data from that. You don't have to go around swabbing people's cheeks to find out what.
Been testing our wastewater?
Yeah, because they have access to it because they're the city.
Wow.
And so they've been testing all the wastewater, and we're well over 70%. Like 70% of the population has had it and is done with it.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So we're well into herd immunity.
So are we at the point now? I know we talked about this before, but you can donate blood and they can tell you if you have the.
Yeah.
Does that Vitality or whatever down on 21st Street do that?
Sure.
I should call them.
They all test. I mean, they have to test the blood, and they want to tell you if you have it, because if you donate it and you have the antibodies, they want your blood, and they'll ask you to come in every couple of weeks.
Oh fuck! That's one reason I wouldn't want to do it.
Yeah.
I guess I could just say no. I don't want to.
Yeah.
If I did,
they can't make you come donate blood,
right.
But they can make you feel bad about not going in and
right.
donating blood.
Well, for sure.
But so we're at or near. It's all which scientists you ask where
right.
herd immunity is. But 70, 75, 80%, somewhere in there is herd immunity. Like, I had it last March, like early on, like when it first got to the valley, because my grandpa's wife she fell and broke her ribs and had to go stay in a care home for a while. I assume that's where I picked it up. And then Mara and I had it, and then we were over it. But that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
very early on in the whole thing.
And then you've got the news saying, well, we don't know if you stay immune.
Right.
Why is this different?
Why
is this different than every fucking other thing ever?
It's all just misinformation. And it's kind of I feel like right now, I feel like the current administration, and this is proof, the proof is right here that I don't have a affiliation with any political party. Because I don't I'm not a super duper fan of this administration. I'm a fan of Trump being gone just because it's lessened just the overall anxiousness of the country.
Maybe
I think
we can fucking breathe.
Right. We can kind of get, but right now I feel like everything's heightened by the current administration, and we're making everything out to be so terrible so that when it's fixed, they can pat themselves on the back for.
Oh yeah.
Because I don't think it's as bad. Like, I haven't thought it's as bad as it was for a while now, but I think it's right now they're extra emphasis on the bad and this new strain and how it's potentially more deadly, or it could be more deadly, but we don't know. There's all this don't know-ism shit that's out there.
Yeah.
And it's getting people in a panic, and
and if you don't know, then shut up.
And people and I love my dad, and I think he's really a smart guy, but he grew up watching news when news was like non-biased and delivered, like it was more factual information.
that we know of. I mean,
that we know of. Right,
was.
right.
But it wasn't telling. It wasn't.
But it wasn't this exaggerated effort that we have today.
Right. And because it wasn't on 24 hours a day.
And it wasn't dependent on.
Because fuck Ted Turner.
Commercials and shit to.
Yeah.
Because we have news personalities now.
They had an hour to deliver what was going on in the world, and that was enough. You didn't need 24 hours of news to tell you.
You get what's going on in the world news, and then you get your newspaper. Like, I don't know what was wrong with some of the old ways that we did things, and I know we still have the newspaper now, but printed news is dying. Mm-hmm. But it would be nice to still have local information.
Yeah,
I'd rather have a local news distribution than those fucking money saver things that they toss in my driveway that like turn into fucking paper.
They turn into a little soup.
Yeah, a paper mush in my driveway.
And there's no way to make them stop.
You can't make them stop. They just throw them there anyway. And then, so if I don't get it right away and throw it away and the weather's shitty, I'm fucked.
You got to go out and get like your dog poop scooper.
Yeah.
And pick it up.
But no, I think just the way the news is delivered now is so much sensationalization that it makes it hard for people to discern what's important and what's not important.
And there's too many people.
The sky is falling, and there's too many people that are still that buy into everything and believe that everything is coming crashing to an end. And I buy into some shit that I see, and it's just like you buy into what where your kind of ideals lean a little bit. So you kind of if you're prone to be like to resist things, then you're more prone to be like fake news or that kind of have that kind of attitude towards things. And
absolutely, because that's where I lean. I don't believe anything anyone says ever anymore.
It's hard to.
And part of that is because I'm a born skeptic, and part of it is because I'm an asshole and I'm resistant to anybody who's trying to tell me anything or sell me anything or both.
Well, I've been fucked over enough that because I've been that guy in that position where I've been sold a fucking bill of goods, whether it's being sold something that I didn't want or didn't need. I'd say like an example would be I got sold a rainbow vacuum cleaner years and years ago. We still have it, but by golly, it's the biggest pain in the ass to operate.
Oh, really?
I mean, it's coming on 20 years old, and so they do last a fucking lifetime. Mm-hmm. And I have to buy some replacement parts, and it's less a pain in the ass now than say it was 20 years ago when we had it, because you got to fill up the water container and put it in the thing and then put it on, and because it vacuums all the debris and stuff into into basically a water basin so that they're not kicking around dust.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
It's great for pet hair and like dander and stuff because basically it's going into the water and it's holding it there instead of just redistributing it
into a little cloth bag that.
Right.
Yeah.
So I mean, maybe that's a poor example because that's like the one thing but I have bought shit that I've regretted buying and been talked into buying.
Yeah.
Via commercials or whatever else, and
nearly everything I've ever bought, I regret buying.
Yeah.
Like I've got a couple of jackets that I'm happy that I bought because they work.
Right.
Like they do what they're supposed to do, and they're not awful bulky. But yeah, most things that I've purchased, I'm not happy that I purchased them in the long run. Like, boy, I wish I would have just bought stock.
Yeah. Well, my wife and I years ago she bought me a camera, a Canon XLR, which was at the time, she got it for me. It was like $5,000, close to $5,000. I couldn't unload that for $800 now. I couldn't even get that for it. It's basically, it works. And I could still transfer video, but it's antiquated technology, and I would have to pay, I think like $1,500 to be able to upgrade it so that it can like record to a hard drive.
Mm.
And it's like, but what? I do that. As soon as I do that, something on it, like some component or part on it, wears out. But I used it like for a good 2.5 years. And then after that, like I stopped, like I just, life changes, your goals change and stuff like that. And so it's like, I try really hard to like think about a purchase that I'm going to make or whatever it happens to be. We definitely have too much stuff. Mm-hmm. But like for me, like the most recent thing with like buying the beer stuff, but I've been like pretty religiously brewing beer.
Yeah.
Even if I did it for a year, it would still pay off just having had the knowledge. By the way, I got a hops connection through hockey. Yeah, a guy that plays hockey used to brew beer, and he's got hops growing in his backyard. So
nice.
And this fall, he may even give me some like starters to start growing my own.
That's the fucking secret, man. Finding people around you that
it's that barter system.
Yeah, get out of everything. Like there's two ways I think to deal with this crazy ass world that we're in now. Like either you invest in the big brother thing, and you accept it and you live with it. Like you jump into the social media and you become one with that world, and you learn to navigate it. You learn the language. You just make it part of yourself, and you accept
if that's going to be you,
and you do it, or you step out of it. You try and build something in your local community, like, and work towards self-sufficiency. Get a garden going. Raise some chickens. I know you had some bad luck with chickens and dogs and whatever, but you were on the right go there.
Yeah.
And then, like, you're brewing beer. Well, this guy has hops. You can turn his hops into something that you can trade with other people, because it's not like you're going to drink all of your beer.
Well, that's
right.
Yeah.
Especially at the rate that you're able to pretty much fire and forget it, right? Like it's like 4 hours of work and then it sits.
Yeah, it works out to be like 6 hours with cleanup and everything. But yeah, then it sits for 2 weeks and then I'd spend an hour bottling. But if I was kegging, it'd go faster.
Yeah.
But then I have to sanitize. I'll have to sanitize those kegs. But either way, it's not a huge time investment, and the reward is, one, having something I made myself. So far, I've had pretty good luck with it. Mm-hmm. I haven't had
you haven't had
any
a bad
batches.
I think I've tasted all of them,
mm-hmm.
and none of them are bad. They're all drinkable, and I mean that, like, you can sit down and drink them,
right?
And you're not like, fuck.
Yeah, I gotta keep drinking this piece of shit.
And none of them are that pretentious shit with like fucked up flavors in them. I'm not gonna go off on that tangent.
Yeah, I'm a little averse. I'm a little averse to brewing like a bunch of stuff with like certain flavors, because one, unless I do like a smaller batch, I'd have to do like a 1 gallon to maybe 3 gallon batch or something. So I'm not making as much, which is a possibility. But like, I don't want to have 5 gallons of an IPA that I don't care for that much, and know that other people don't care for that much.
Yeah, and I don't mind if you throw a little infusion of flavor in something, but like there's been an uptick in, I don't know, Rick
blueberry or some
berry
like
flavored beers, and a little honey is one thing, but then like Rick was drinking this peanut butter stuff the other day, and I'm like, what the fuck are you drinking peanut butter?
One of my beer with Edwardo's I did a peanut butter stout, and it wasn't bad, but it's like, but I couldn't do a whole brew like that or a whole batch like that, because I'm not going to drink that. I drank 1 22-ounce bottle, and that was,
wow,
it was all set.
that's almost 2 beers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why they.
It's just it's the market now.
People trying to do things, I guess. And see, that's another thing with the way things are going. Like, you have to
keep inventing.
You got to be a part of that.
Keep reinventing basically the same wheel with new spokes.
Yeah. You got to jump in on that or just get out of it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I don't think I want to be that.
Everything that I like, I've always been kind of late to the game with podcasting, with, we started the podcast in 2008, but podcasting was happening in like 2006. And, even entering like now is hard to catch, like, especially with the genre that we get into, it's hard to hit that fucking sweet spot.
Yeah. White guys talking about pop culture. Yeah, that's a pretty widespread podcast.
There was, I sent you that screenshot of that comment in the one of the podcast groups I was in.
Oh, yeah.
And he was like, because I was like, we have a really unique show with 3 white guys.
Talking about movies.
And the one guy's like, no, that's us too. And I was like, well, we drink beer. Do you drink beer? He's like, no. And he said some other thing. I was like, does that mean I win?
Do I get a booby prize?
Yeah. But no, it's one of those things where I've always been kind of like late to adopt certain things. Like when I was 4 or 5 months into doing the podcast, I'm reaching out to other people that are like podcasters and stuff, because I was trying to network and stuff then. But I'm like, hey, what are you doing? And they're like, you should start a Twitter account. And this was late 2008, 2009, which is Twitter's still pretty new, but I still didn't like Twitter. What the fuck's Twitter? And I spent, this is when I was working nights at Budweiser, and I spent like probably 4 hours, and I had my computer hooked up to my TV, like my TV in my living room. And I'm just like sitting in front of I remember, cause it was just it felt like this huge waste of time. And that's why it's like imprinted in my brain as I sat there creating the account and then following people, hoping for those people to follow me, hoping for something.
And
didn't really know.
Like all of the people that you follow, like none of them are going to follow you back.
Or if they do, they're not going to watch what you're posting about.
No.
Unless you resonate somehow. And anymore, to do that, you have to have some sort of platform that you have capitalized on somewhere.
And I'm literally nobody.
Yeah.
Like no one. I'm the world to like 2 people. And everyone else doesn't fucking care.
Yeah.
And I'm comfortable with that. Like I it took me, probably 25, 27 years, but I grew incredibly comfortable with being no one.
Yeah.
Like you kind of hit that point and you're like, no, wait, this is kind of cool.
This
is a good thing.
It's even like doing the podcast where you would think you'd want some sort of like following. I do, but at the same time, I'm like, I'm okay with it's like small.
Yeah.
Like I feel like it gets too big, it gets dangerous. Because there's
well, especially the way I talk.
Well, yeah, there's that, because you have people like just because of the cancel culture vitriol that goes along with certain aspects of being more popular and famous.
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. I didn't think about, me just, my general anti-woman stances and saying cunt. And
if you have listeners that can, understand, like, not necessarily, maybe they don't completely agree with your position, they can also see you as they listen long enough to kind of understand you as the individual that you are. Mm-hmm. So they're like, okay, well, that's not all that Hudds is about.
Right. Yeah.
And so there's
is it?
Or
Am
is
I
it
really shallow? Probably.
But they're not throwing all their fucking coins in that purse. Basically, they're not. They're not getting on board with Hudds to the point that, like, I'm gonna go down with the fucking ship when this happens.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of a small following of people that can appreciate what you're doing, but don't necessarily like want to suck your dick.
Right. Yeah, I don't want anybody sucking my dick.
Anybody.
No.
And that's kind of like the I guess, without putting it a better way, I think that's kind of where my thought with the show is. Like Bruno's a fan of the show, but I see Bruno as like an equal to me, or even a better than me in a way, because, and it's because he's got his own stuff going on, and he's got like his own goals and his own things. It's like him being a fan of the show, like that doesn't like revolve around his existence.
Right. And that was kind of one of the things I wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
Was that I was listening to a different show today, a show called Hidden Brain. It used to be on an NPR show, but they've broken off and done they're their own thing now. And it was just this. They were talking about brands or something. Let me pull up because the show description had nothing to do with this, and not that one. I listened to 2 today. Our brands ourselves was the thing, and they were talking about, this guy was talking about how he'd been running and playing basketball, and he'd hit an age where he had to find something else because it was too hard on his joints. And so he took up cycling and got really super into Lance Armstrong. And he
and then that thing
had
happened.
The Live Strong bracelet. He had all the, I don't remember which brand it was that.
Nike.
Was it Nike?
Yeah, he bought all in basically is where.
He was all in, and it was to the point where like he'd be on a hard ride on a mountain or something, and he could look down at the bracelet and get himself pumped up enough to go up the hill further. Or he would do whatever it is Lance Armstrong did during a race, like unzip his shirt and flip his hat backwards or something when he was getting to the point where he needed to show his competitors that he was getting his extra juice or whatever. And
the extra juice.
That was a double funny because he was actually juicing.
Right.
I don't think they should have taken his shit away either. I think Lance Armstrong won all 7 of those races because everyone was juicing.
I bet you everyone was juicing.
Everyone. But that's neither here nor there.
He just juiced better.
But that guy's whole world fell apart. When it and then they were talking about studies where
it would be like growing up your whole life latching on to Kevin Spacey for whatever reason, like just
right
or something.
Like
to
7
that.
Was so good, and
and the Usual
K-Pax
Suspects
was the fucking show, and whatever, and but they'd done studies, and brands have this effect on people. Like one person would be, everybody used the same putter in this experiment, right? Some people were not told a brand at all, and the other group of people were told they were using a Nike putter. And the people who were told they were using a Nike putter did better on average than the people who were not told what brand they were using. Simply, and that was the only difference.
Were they using more than one putter?
Nope.
Or just
everybody did the same amount of shots with
the same putters. Okay.
Same style, same brand, same everything, but only
the people that knew they were using a Nike putter did better. Like they statistically did better.
Right.
Overall.
Yeah, better on average than the people who didn't. And so, which is just, it's a weird.
That is a weird phenomenon because it's just like.
But
because those people that didn't, it's just like, it's just some fucking putter.
But if you take the Walmart brand and Tylenol, the Tylenol will give you better results, even though they're the same formula. The pill is the same formula, but the brand name will give you a better result than the Walmart brand.
Is that based on? Is that based on your? Is that for everybody, or just based on someone's intellectual belief
That's
it's
just
that way.
based on the studies they did.
Because like my intellectual belief is that generic stuff like that is the same across the board. So I don't feel like I personally in my head, I don't think that taking a Walmart brand Tylenol versus a Tylenol brand Tylenol is going to be any different.
They did a different show on the placebo effect that you ought to dig through their archives and find it. I might have sent it to you guys.
It's the Hidden Brain.
Yeah. It was mind-blowing. Like this lady knew she was on after the trial, knew they told her after it was done because it had cured her IBS. She had like cramping to the point where she couldn't function some days. The sugar pill and the placebo cured her, and they wouldn't continue to give it to her after the study was over. So she had to find a doctor to prescribe her the sugar pill, even though she knew it had no effect medicinally, and it cured her.
Okay, so she took a placebo, but did she? But so she believed she was taking.
And
the cure?
after it was over, when
they told her,
after they told her,
it still worked. Really?
And still cured her problems.
That's insane.
So just the act of taking this sugar pill.
That's crazy. I have mixed feelings. Like I get the idea why placebos need to exist in like clinical trials and stuff, but I have mixed feelings because my mom did a clinical trial before she passed away, and so like I'm like, yeah, I know you gave her the placebo or the sugar pill, basically. Mm-hmm. And so that the idea of that pisses me off because it's like, what makes her like, you know what I mean? You understand where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
Like if they have something that they're trying to test, why not let her just test it? If she's on her, you know. But I get the idea of wanting to have something
to have a control group.
The control group,
because
basically.
If people are getting better on their own, there has to be some.
They want to be able to
identify
that.
To identify that is. That dude doesn't know what placebo means. Shit eater. So anyway, I went off on a tangent there. But it got me to thinking about like how people will attach themselves to a thing. And I think this is why religion has lasted as long as it has.
Yeah.
Because if you attach yourself to something that can't be disproven, can't be shaken, can't be pulled down, because you can't prove there isn't a God.
Right. There's been so many years of saying that there is.
Well,
I mean, people
infallible.
Can have their doubts.
Right. But if my faith is such in my God,
right,
nothing can shake that. Your doubts aren't going
to have an impact on how you feel about it. Right.
I believe whatever it is that I believe. And that has power. All of these brands, whether it's Nike or Tylenol or whatever, have power. Because even words have power over people. Because they move thoughts between people, right? But so we're in an age where, but even putting faith in a brand is better than putting it in a person. This guy put all his faith in Lance Armstrong.
Right.
And I don't ever want to be in a position where people are putting their faith in me as like a godhead,
right,
like he did with Lance Armstrong. Because Lance was doping.
Right. Or like
I don't care.
Or like people did with Trump.
Exactly. And they're doing it with their political party. They're doing it with specific characters.
That's why it's almost become an athletic event. It doesn't feel like there's it's more a game anymore, and that's why I don't lend a lot of credence to politics, because there's nothing getting accomplished.
You see them doing it with their sports teams.
Mm-hmm.
And with a sports team, it's not quite as bad. I mean, as long as you're not doing it for the White Sox and in the late teens, you should be all right. When they fixed the World Series that one time.
Oh. Recently?
No, God no, like 100 years ago.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I didn't know they fixed one.
Oh yeah, look up the Chicago Black Sox sometime.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I vaguely remember.
Yeah, that was
that information. Yeah.
I remember hearing about that as a kid and thinking that Chicago had a third baseball team. Like, why can't I ever see them play? I always see the Cubs and the White Sox play. The Black Sox were just 5 guys that were on the team that set up. They worked with, what's his name? He was in Boardwalk Empire.
Nucky?
No, Nucky's. It was the guy in New York that was buying from him, the really smart guy.
Oh, it's been a while since I've seen that. And I haven't even finished that show.
It's worth it.
Yeah, I need to.
That last season was a bit off, but it was good. But yeah, I think that's, and I think about, this is my favorite of the 10 commandments, is don't worship false gods or engraven images or whatever. And I think the reason it's there is for this, because when you do and it falls, it totally fucks up your entire sense of identity. It just destroys you.
Yeah.
This guy went through and took thousands of dollars of merchandise, usable clothing, and threw it in the trash because Lance Armstrong cheated.
And he could no longer identify with that.
And this was something that he drew power from while he was exercising.
Right, and to the extent that he bought so much merchandise. I mean, there were people that just did like the bracelets, and I know that they felt like they were totally betrayed when that happened.
Yeah, their whole life was based on this little yellow bracelet. And he said he had like 50 of them. And you think about that and you're like, your whole life is based on that thing. And sometimes you see parents that do it with their children. You see if they do it with a show. There were a lot of people that did that with Breaking Bad. There were a lot of people that did that with Game of Thrones. Mm-hmm. There's people that do it. I can't think of a show right now. But
you can't put so much stock in that because it doesn't. You'll end up being disappointed. Lost was one of those shows that disappointed a lot of people. A lot of people were like happy with the way it ended, but there were a lot more that weren't.
And that's why religion works, is because it doesn't go away. You can't.
It's not. There's no ending to it. Like there's not an announcement. No one's going to come in, and Jesus isn't going to show up and be like, "Hey,
it's over.
We're ending Christianity. We're done. We're done."
There's a book for that too. But when that happens, if that happens, it happens legit.
Right.
It really is the end of everything.
Right.
That's the magic of religion. If it does end, it really is the end of everything. But I don't know. Like you can't buy into even patriotism because countries and empires end.
Yeah.
Imagine buying into Rome. Like, what was that dude's name? Oh, not Julius Caesar. He was one of them. The whole triumvirate. Shit. My brain always goes out. Marcus Crassus.
Oh.
The other guy that was with Marcus Crassus, Julius Caesar, and then a third guy.
The third guy.
The third guy.
Well, yeah. I mean, and the thing is that, like, empires lasted longer than our country currently is right now. Certain empires have.
Some of them.
That have fallen.
Yeah.
And who's to say we don't fall? I think we'll destroy the planet before that happens. Because we're so eager, we're so fucking anxious to succeed, to win. We're such a winning type country. We want to win at everything.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to win at being a country right now. But I don't know how long that holds true. I mean, we came real close to a civil war this past year. Not real close, but it's certainly.
There were a lot of people running their mouths, but I don't know that it really came that close. That whole thing felt staged.
The insurrection?
Yeah, like those cops just kind of moved aside. And
well, I think that some of them were probably in support of it.
Most of the
to some
people
degree.
who were like diehard Trumpers, they tried to keep people from going in because I think
the ones
people.
that went in and the ones that caused the problem were the fucking nut bars.
Oh yeah, I mean that dude was dressed up like
That Simpsons character.
yeah.
Yeah.
Did you see Harris at the thing? She looked like Lisa Simpson when she went to the presidency.
Yeah.
Man, I think they're just trolling us at this point.
It seems like they are with some of the stuff that we see, especially as it. There was another. That Disenchantment show, the Matt Groening show on
oh yeah,
Netflix. There was like this whole insurrection, storm the castle type scene that they're comparing as another prophetic.
Oh really? Oh God. Yeah, that's a weird. I didn't get into that one.
I didn't either.
I watched about 2 episodes of it.
I just saw like the headline for that, but yeah, it couldn't keep my attention.
I wasn't down. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that if it doesn't grab me in the first episode, I just don't care. And I'm to the point where people are like, oh, you got to wait until season 2 and then it gets really good. Like, fuck you.
I don't have to do anything because it's up to me whether I do it.
I'm 40 now.
Yeah.
It's not like when you're 20.
Oh. I've had show starting soon on for the whole show. Oops.
Oh, cool.
Oh, well.
Hey, the show was
starting.
starting.
The show has been on and
the
going.
The show will soon start.
Don't worry. Anyway. So, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to wait for season 2. Wait for season 2. Wait for season 3. It gets really good in season 3.
Really
why did it take that long? Why,
yeah.
Why, and who gave it that much time? If it's not getting really good by episode 3, because I can get like 1 or 2 episodes, establishing fucking characters and shit like that, and trying to build this trajectory for the show to go. Like a lot of shows get that kind of slow start, especially with when you factor in that one of those episodes is a pilot.
Yeah.
And so it's getting made, and most of the time it's just one pilot episode. Sometimes a show will get ordered for like a couple, like 3 or 4 episodes.
Sometimes I like it when they do that. I think they did that with Cobra Kai.
I think so.
So there was like a coherent 3 or 4 episodes.
Through line there that they could say, oh, okay, I see where this is going. I can get on board with this.
And I heard somewhere that one, they had at least an outline for 6 seasons. Like, if we can get these people, if we can get, certain people to come back at certain points, then we've got...
Which I'm good with for that show.
Yeah.
They've done a really good job with it. Sometimes I think a show overstays its welcome, and I don't think that they're in the position where they're doing that right now.
Not yet. I mean, they could. It'd be real easy for them, too.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody, not to jump completely into a different thing, but I saw a video the other day, and I'd never noticed this before, but on Johnny's leg in the original Karate Kid movie, he's got like a series of patches, and one of the patches is the same patch that is in Sato's dojo in Karate Kid Part 2.
Oh.
And so my little rant about Sato training Terry Silver and Martin Cove's character, John Kreese, I'm sticking to it. I know they didn't get into it yet, but they have done flashbacks, and
there's enough there to build
yeah,
to build, like, maybe it wasn't intended.
Right.
Obviously back in 1987 they weren't like, and in 30 or in 40 years
right,
we're going to make Cobra Kai. But if there's one show that's been able to so masterfully write around 3 movies from 30 some years ago,
yeah,
it's been this show, and they've done it in such a way that it's I don't know, it's pretty remarkable. I haven't been disappointed so far.
No. And everybody,
and it honestly makes the trilogy better.
It does. for something that I thought was kind of as much as I love the original Karate Kid movies, they are pretty much just a throwaway thing from my childhood.
Right.
And that I look back on fondly, like even the Masters of the Universe movie.
Right.
But wow. And like William Zabka is off the charts. And Daniel's wife, boy, she was just a hidden gem. Where's she been?
Yeah. No kidding. Yeah, I mean, she's been an amazing contribution to the show.
Yeah.
She adds, I think we talked about this one of the last episodes. The last time we sat down was how Cove adds that kind of realism to the whole thing, and she's one of those like grounding pieces too, where she's kind of in this universe that's like a facsimile of reality,
yeah.
but she's kind of like that one of those pieces that's in there to be like,
yeah,
but I'm reality, and
she's
this
one
is
of the real
weird
people
to me.
who got dropped in here.
Right.
And, like he's a real non-veteran. Like he really, this is a person who could really exist.
Yeah.
He's playing for real stakes. And everyone else in that world is not a real person. Terry Silver is a comic book villain. He's like a incredible mastermind, like fully rounded, like he should be a Batman villain.
Yeah, I mean, he's like the Riddler or the Joker.
He could stand there with any of them and fight Bruce Wayne, not just Batman. But he could he could put on a costume and fight Batman, but he could stand against Bruce Wayne. And Martin Cove's character isn't that. He's not a comic booky villain. I mean, he kind of starts to turn in Karate Kid Part 3, and there's some cigar chomping in Cobra Kai, but like
that's a nod to the era, I think.
Yeah, and then
and that machismo that comes with that kind of.
Is it Amanda LaRusso?
Yes.
I binged it all when it first came out and then totally lost it. Maybe that's what I'll watch again. I've been going through the Marvel movies in timeline order because they have them set out now on Disney Plus.
They have them laid out on Disney Plus and Timeline?
Yeah.
Another streaming service that's doing most things right.
Yeah.
They were kind of slow getting off the platform, but I think they're
bang for your buck. I think
they're
that's
working
one of the
into
better.
it. WandaVision, I'm still on the fence with, but I can kind of appreciate what they're doing with it.
Yeah, it's definitely a different experience. I'm only 2 episodes in, and I'm gonna die on that hill. I think they should have made them 1 episode.
Yeah,
I know what they were doing. Like the first one was Dick Van Dyke, and the second one was Bewitched, and I get what they were trying to do. But it should have just been 1 episode, and they should have started to colorize it at the end like they did. There shouldn't have been a break. And it was a good idea that they released them both at the same time.
And that's probably why you're here making the argument that you're making that it should have been 1. Is they ended up thinking, oh, well, this should have been 1, so here we'll just give them 2 at once. So
it seems like something that would have taken like a couple of seconds to edit into.
Yeah.
Cut that needless pen and paper thing at the screen out, and like I don't care if Kat Dennings is at a desk taking notes. I don't give a shit. You can put that at the end of the end.
Yeah.
But
what's up with the 7-minute credit sequence?
I don't know.
God damn it! That pisses me off every time. Like that's a longer credit sequence than most movies have.
Yeah.
And so then I'm like, oh, are they gonna have some sort of Easter egg? So I'm fast forwarding through. Oh, it's like, no, I have to have like the because they have like different language credits in there too.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, they started doing that with like.
They added a skip credits feature too.
Did they?
All the movies, yeah.
Oh, all the Marvel ones?
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
so you watch, and then you have to watch through the initial like animated stuff, and it'll do the first mid-credit scene, and then when it goes to like the regular scrolling through credits, you can skip. Hi, sweetheart. It's Daddy Podcast. Hi, Daddy. Hi, Mara. How are you, girl?
So
that's my favorite girl.
Getting back on to kind of where we were going. Well, since we're on kind of a streaming service, Jag, we'll kind of circle back to the HBO Max. They're extending their promotion that they're giving that 22% discount over, or for new subscribers through the month of March.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, so they're wanting people to jump on board for like 6 months and pay
$70.
$70 for 6 months versus, so it works out to like $11.66 a month versus $15.99 a month or $14.99 a month. And it says they've extended it until March 1st, but then they said through March. So through March says to me March 31st. So maybe this needed edited.
Yeah.
But it makes me wonder how much onboarding we have with the service. It makes me worry a little bit about the service's success in the current format that it is. I don't know that they would necessarily revisit the COVID-19 streaming notions that they did, like where they're doing all these movies at the same time as they're in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know that they'd redo that next year.
Probably not.
I would think they'll want to get away from it.
Well, it pissed an awful lot of actors off.
Denzel Washington was real chaffed over it.
They should find a way to give him some money.
They should. I want to watch that movie. Looks fucking great.
I'm glad they did it. I don't care if he's mad.
I don't give a shit because that movie looks good, and I'm glad I'm going to get to sit in my house and watch it this Friday.
Denzel Washington. I will probably watch that.
So the part that jumped out to me on this article was, with the day-to-day move, Warner Media in 2021 will need a net 8.4 million incremental new HBO Max subs above its current pace to recoup lost revenues from the theatrical and home entertainment distribution, according to estimates.
That's according to estimates. There's no telling. Do you know how fucking scared most people are? Like, I thought most people felt like I do and are not really scared to go to
estimates of revenue. They don't exist. Theaters have lowered their prices for like to see a show.
Yeah.
Their food prices are still fucking nuts, but their ticket prices are like $5. And they'll close for a week because they don't have a show to show. Because most of the stuff's been going like direct to video or direct to stream. But we went and saw that Tom Hanks movie and paid $5. Mm-hmm. And I can't see revenues climbing, and hardly anybody's there. Like you said, a lot of people you would think would be in your way of thinking, but most people aren't.
I know. It's fucking
It's
weird.
surprising to see. And, and we're like, our household's probably somewhere in the middle of that, the way of thinking. We don't run out. I don't go out a lot anyway. Even before COVID, it wasn't like a thing.
Not a
like we hardly
sociable.
ever went to the theater, because going to the theater with 3 kids for me is like a project. It's expensive, one. And
that's
it's
gotta be like
stressful
$120
up until the point
time.
that you sit down. It's at least
Right?
$100, yeah. Because you're paying
snacks.
$50 to get in, and you're paying about $50 to $60 for snacks and everything. Because everybody wants what they want, and you gotta get like. And I sit there and I'm like doing the fucking math in my head, and then I can see myself becoming the asshole in the room. So then I'm just like, fuck, whatever.
Yeah.
So,
at some point, you just throw up your hands and you're like, okay.
But.
Well, I haven't reached that point,
but
I'm awful.
So, yeah, I mean, so we didn't go that often to begin with, but if we're going during the pandemic and hardly anybody else is going, when we've gone before and it's always like this fucking clusterfuck to get in. I mean, our theater was never really, like, some shows weren't packed, but like if we're going to a Tom Hanks movie on opening weekend,
it's all old people.
That's going to be filled up, and it's a lot of it will be old people. But I remember we went to Road to Perdition years ago.
Oh, that one was fun.
That was a good movie.
Did this one have a pee gag? He always has a pee gag.
I don't remember.
I don't remember where that started. Was it big?
I don't know. I've never really watched for pee gags.
But he pees, like, Madonna times him in that one movie, Road to Perdition. Like, doesn't he get shot in the bathroom? There's a problem.
No, he gets shot looking out at his son on the beach.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a moment where he goes to pee.
His son plays Superman on CW now.
Really?
Yeah, he's in that new Superman and Lois show that's coming out.
That dude played his kid in Road to Perdition?
Tyler Hoechlin.
Wow. The weird thing was, last time I watched that, I was like, holy shit, James Bond is in this.
Oh, yeah. And he was not like he didn't look attractive in that. Not that he looks attractive anyway, but he didn't have the Daniel Craig identity at the time, I guess.
He wasn't James Bond?
He wasn't. He didn't have that James Bond identifier that made him like a ladies' man, you know? And so he's always had these kind of bigger ears, so he just looked uncharacteristically
he looked
kind of
like
annoying.
a Mr. Potato Head.
Yeah. And so he fit really well within that role in Road to Perdition. And you're like, oh, there's a villain. I don't like that guy. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the first thing I'd seen Daniel Craig in.
It might have been his first big one.
Bigger picture, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'd done some stuff in Britain and stuff, but I think a lot of those guys had start out on like TV shows.
Almost all of them. Doing some BBC thing.
Yeah. Fucking Ian McShane did that Lovejoy show for years in the 80s. It was like the BBC version of MacGyver. Mm-hmm. Without all the MacGyver-y stuff. But it was
like
similar.
An antiques dealer or something?
Yeah. Yeah. We watched probably a dozen of those episodes. They're pretty good.
Is it on something that's
it was on Acorn or BritBox or something, and my dad...
Do you have Acorn? I
did. I don't. Well, no, I might right now, because my dad likes to watch those British shows.
My grandpa's got it. my grandpa's like you. Fucking have
all the streaming services?
Yeah.
Eduardo and Hudds' grandpa have all the streaming services.
Good old Gramps.
So I don't know if those estimates are going to be accurate. They're estimates based off a historical precedence that has been broken by the fact that nobody's going to the theater.
Yeah.
And so
Craig Moffat can go fuck somebody.
Yeah, fuck off, Moffat. Motherfucker. Moffat. No, I think they're basing estimates off of old data. Mm-hmm. Off of what it could do in a non-COVID universe. But we're in a COVID universe now, so you're going to have to fucking eat the fucking food you're given and live with it. I mean, that's just kind of the bottom line to the whole thing is the narrative's been changed.
But I look at this list of shows, and Matrix is probably the only one that I would go see in the theater. Maybe Dune.
Maybe.
But Dune I would probably wait for, because I read the book when I was like 12.
I didn't care much for the first movie.
And they've made 2 bad movies.
Is it 2 now?
No, the other one was a miniseries.
Which one was the miniseries?
The one on Sci-Fi, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah. And Kyle MacLachlan was the movie, right?
Right, with Sting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Space Jam, I don't care. I
That's
know
the LeBron James one.
Loves
I don't care about Space Jam.
The original Space Jam.
If it was Space Jam with Michael Jordan back, I might be interested in watching it once it's on video. A lot of these titles, like you said, I don't care about. The Mini Saints Network, Bruno worked on, or Newark. Mini Saints of Newark, Bruno worked on that.
Did he?
Prequel to The Sopranos.
Best friend of the show.
Yeah. I might be interested in seeing that, but that was going to come to HBO anyway. That's an HBO thing. So it would have been there one way or the other, even if it was theatrical ahead of time.
And I would have watched The Suicide Squad, but I don't know that I would have gone to see it in the theater. As much as no, because I really like James Gunn movies.
He didn't helm the first one, right?
Right. He did the first 2 Guardians of the Galaxy.
Guardians of the Galaxy. Those were fucking tight.
That they tried to copy with Captain Marvel. I watched that again. I watched because it's the second one in.
I've not seen Captain Marvel
world.
yet.
They really, really wanted it to fit that music video feel that the
right.
First
You
two
said
Guardians,
it just the pacing wasn't there, huh?
it never matches up like it does in Guardians. Like Guardians really nails it. The whole show just really.
Well, that
to
fucking
the music
in the second one when fucking Rooker's walking around blasting that fucking forehead arrow out of his thing and the music's playing.
Yeah.
Oh man, that was one of the funnest sequences to watch.
Yeah, and they didn't get a pair of directors that could do what James Gunn does.
Yeah.
If you wanted to make that movie, you should have just let James Gunn do it. And
paid him for it.
I don't imagine he and Brie Larson would have got along very well. Because I don't think anybody gets along with her. I think she's an abrasive human
That's the
being.
general consensus
It sounds like she's being difficult on the set of her Star Wars project. It sounds like she's just a pain in the ass to work with. And I think it's part of it because she's an entitled feminist, and part of it is she's just a bitch. Like,
yeah.
And I don't know. There's a whole lot of different problems with her, and I don't want to get into it because it'll just make the three of you that are watching angry. But if you're at all interested, just do a search on the YouTubes about Brie Larson being a pain in the ass, and it comes up. I'm super excited for Matrix 4, though. I'm
looking forward to it. The first Matrix was one I remember. My memory of the first Matrix was falling asleep to it in the theater. Not because it was necessarily bad, but I was probably tired. But
I went and saw that with my mom.
It didn't. The whole idea might be more appealing now because I've just kind of gotten more into like sci-fi since I've gotten out of high school, and this was like early college when The Matrix came out for me. I think.
Yeah.
What was it, 98, 99?
99.
Yeah. So just basically into college.
Yeah, and it was a weird time too. Like it was February or March or something. Like it wasn't the time for that sort of movie. And I think they were shooting for that because the initial ad campaign for it was just like, what is the Matrix? And there was no push of trailers for it. It was just, what is the Matrix? And it was great. What a great way to sell a movie.
I want more campaigns like that. I'd love just a 30-second teaser of something to sell me on the idea of going to see something.
I wonder when that was, because I was sure I was still in high school. Like I know it was the year I graduated. Matrix.
But yeah, I think trailers overdo it now. And for the most part, they have for a long time. But every once in a while, someone hits the nail on the head with how to promote a product. And it sounds to me like The Matrix did that. A few others have done it. What was that?
March 31st. I nailed it. March.
You said April
99.
So you were close.
I said February or March.
Or February. Yeah.
I know that's a pretty wide margin, but it's
still
an odd
it's still
time for
in
an
that
action movie.
Yeah.
Like it should have been like a May or June release,
or a December,
July,
or
even.
like holiday release,
or a holiday release. Yeah. Like over Christmas weekend, that would have been good. Like a Bond movie or a Star Wars movie, but late June, early July. Ooh, that would have been better. Yeah, like Independence Day. It would have been an Independence Day style release. That would have worked too.
But it did okay as it was.
It did, because of that ad campaign.
Yeah.
And then when the sequel came out and they had those kick-ass phones and they made like 5,000 of them and that was it. And it was huge. They all sold. And then those movies didn't do so well because people didn't like them because they were different genre.
Yeah, you've said that before. They did it. They built them as these separate genres, separate of one another. So they were
that first one
kind of standalone
real
pieces.
Tech noir, real different. The second one was a hardcore superhero movie in a time when superhero movies weren't real popular. I mean, you kind of had. I think the first Spider-Man had been out.
It was but that was like the only one that was working, and maybe the X-Men movies were, but they weren't really in that superhero realm because they kind of sat outside of that.
And they didn't really grab
margin.
People. I mean, there were characters within that grabbed people, but for the overall, like even James Marsden didn't. Come
for
across real well there.
they were those movies weren't sold on the action appeal necessarily. They were sold on kind of the character appeal, and really people just glommed on to Wolverine for the most part.
Hugh Jackman was super charismatic, though. And it's hard to overshadow James Marsden because he's awesome. I like James Marsden.
Yeah. I've been watching, I think we finally caught up with The Stand, and it's okay. He's in it. He plays the Gary Sinise character.
Stu Redman.
Yeah. But there's just so many, like, it feels different and familiar, and it's just like they did really well with that 94 version of The Stand.
They did.
And it's hard to set, like, even though like time, like it doesn't hold up in terms of like the period and stuff, but it's still rewatchable. What
is the current miniseries? Is it set now, or is it set in the 90s?
I feel like it's set now.
Okay.
But I don't know because I don't think anybody has cell phones.
Once the.
But I don't know if right.
Doesn't matter. I was just thinking.
But it could have been, but it doesn't feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it's then.
No.
Yeah, I guess it depends on pop culture references and stuff, like what ends up. But it seems like there's certain.
It wouldn't have been because I remember a piece of dialogue. Someone says, "Run, Forrest, run," to Moon, whatever his name is.
Oh yeah.
Run,
Forrest, run.
The actress playing the one that
Wright?
Shawnee Smith played in the first one, the crazy bitch.
Yeah.
In the ghost town.
Which one? They're all ghost.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing I've noticed about all the women in this in that series is they're all a little bit fucking nuts.
Yeah, I think Stephen King wrote that during a misogynistic period of his life.
Well, and always like his villains or the villainistic characters, like is it Howard? Harold seems to be written kind of like in an exaggerated mirroring of himself,
like a self-insert.
Yeah,
it's his Mary Sue.
Yeah, it's like I don't know if that is the case, but like he'll do that. He did that with the Under the Dome too, with the one weird kind of rapey character, and he makes him like extra unredeemable, but also picked on. So you feel bad for him, but also kind of like. But he doesn't know how to manage his deficits. Mm-hmm. So because he doesn't know how to manage his deficits, he fucking he's retaliatory and a bitch, basically.
Yeah.
Little bitch boy.
Yeah, I never liked Harold.
And he's a character that's built to like you try to sympathize with him, but at the same time it's like, yeah, but why are you acting that way? And that's the same like it's hard to feel sorry for a picked on bully if the picked on bully's still a fucking bully.
Right.
Or
anybody
or creepy
who's victimized but doesn't change their behavior to not be victimized.
Right.
Like there's a certain point where you have to be like,
you have to rise above the certain...
But you left your doors unlocked. You know?
Right.
Like they stole your CDs because you left them on the seat and you left the windows down. Like, that was on you. there's only so much that some people can do.
Right.
And I get that.
Well, it'd be like
is
forgiving
wrong.
every fucking serial killer or everybody that turns out to be this homicidal maniac because they were picked on in grade school or.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Because there's a whole lifetime that leads up to that dude killing those people. Right.
But that dude picks their own path
right.
in the process of doing that too. So they have choices to make, and the choices he made got him to where he's at.
Exactly. But also, like, don't make yourself a victim. Don't be that person that leaves your shit out.
Right.
Like, half the time on any of these sites where you see, like, oh, my dog is missing. I've never lost my dog. He'll be 7, and I've had him for coming on 5 years. Like,
yeah,
there's 2 ways to lose your dog, right? You left him out, and he wasn't properly trained, or you treat him like shit and he ran away. Like,
yeah,
Alex and I walked over to A&B the other day, and we took the dog with us, and we put him in Rick's backyard for a couple of minutes, and Alex didn't close the gate all the way. And we walked back over to get him, and we come around the corner and the gate's open, and I was like, shit. And he's sitting right outside Rick's back door. Okay, the dog had free rein to run away, and where did he go?
yeah. Well,
he went to my brother's back door. He wasn't even at home, and he did the right thing.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Well, our dog will get out all the time. My little golden doodle. I gotta fix. There's an opening that's like this wide. That she is like this wide, but she's somehow able to squeeze her way through. Mm-hmm. By one wedging herself through the stair, like the opening in the stairway, and then through the opening in the chain link fence, and she'll like squirm until she gets through. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to watch because it looks like it's painful,
probably uncomfortable.
But she's done it enough times. But when she gets out, she goes and sits on our front step. Mm-hmm. She doesn't go chasing cars.
Do you know why?
And we don't
because you don't mistreat her.
Right. She's just like, I just want in. That's all I want is in the house.
Yeah. But
so she'll just go sit on the front step or kind of walk around the front yard, but not any, like she won't go away.
Yeah.
She's not got a destination in mind.
Yeah. And I will grant that there are some dogs that are just adventurous.
Right. Right.
There's some that just want to go.
It's just a part of their personality.
Explore. And he's done that a couple of times. But when he's done, he comes to the door. Like, he's not running off. He's not a crazy ass dog. No, I'm good. I had a Dr. Pepper or cherry Pepsi or something. But yeah, or you left your dog outside long enough that someone fucking stole it. You know?
Right.
And I don't know.
Never understood a person stealing a dog, but
I know that too. Like, why did you steal someone's dog? I don't like anybody in any of those situations.
Right.
Like, I don't like the person stealing, and I don't like the person who got stolen from.
Yeah.
But or vehicle burglaries. And I know I kind of went into that just a second ago with the unlocked doors and windows and somebody's prowling vehicles. But like 90% of the time, like, people are just trying handles. They're not Slim Jim in cars. They're trying handles, and when something's open, they'll take whatever they can and move on. Because they don't even know how to use a Slim Jim.
Right.
You know?
Well, it's
not like it's a commonly
it's
thing.
just leaving things out that are making things available for people. We got that Ring doorbell camera, so it ended up being like part of this Ring local network of Ring owners. So
that's a thing.
One guy,
America.
I know. One guy posts a thing. He's like, this guy obviously wanted my wheels more than I did. And you see, like, you're watching the video, and it's like the wheels are at the corner of his garage, like at the edge of the garage in the front, like yard. Mm-hmm. And so there's just these wheels sitting there, but you see this guy like pick up the wheels and he's like holding them like, and you see that, and then he just like this real hustle as he hustles back. It's this like really fast walk and he's like gone like that. I was like, wow, it's like the tape sped up because he just took him and moved. But fuck the guy who had the wheels.
Yeah.
Why'd you have him there?
What? Why wasn't the garage closed? Why?
Yeah. I mean, I have things that are outside that are valuable, but I have them concealed. And so if somebody wants to steal them, and it's my fault for having them out there, but they're going to have to work to find it.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's not a lot that I have out that somebody's going to have to just happen upon. Like, oh, there's some wheels. I'm going to take those.
Yeah.
No, I keep my, like, the stuff that I value kind of hidden.
Exactly. And not even really hidden, but just secured in some fashion.
Right.
Like, not out there because there are...
Not basically not advertising that it...
I don't believe in the common decency of my fellow man. Like, I just don't think it's there.
No.
I don't think everybody... I don't think people in general are going to resist temptation. So don't tempt them.
Here's a story about temptation. We sold So, little backstory. My wife sold a piece of property that she had a disabled uncle that she and he were the sole inheritor of this of the property that we had. It was a duplex, a house, and a lot. And so, upon the advice of legal counsel of two different lawyers, we split it up so that it didn't look as though Nicole was trying to take advantage of her disabled uncle in any way. So it got split up. I can't remember, like a trust deed or something to that effect. I can't remember what the name of it was, but my wife could tell you right off the bat. But so anyway, when that happened, the paperwork got fucked up and it ended in giving 15 feet of the house that we sold over to the duplex that we also ended up selling. Mm. Well, about after we sold there's a property line the property line was delineated by these arborvitae bushes, which are like 40 years old. So there's these big, tall, like 15-foot tall shrubs. Mm-hmm. They've been there. They haven't been like, they weren't just recently planted there. So anyway, that's where the property line was. Mm-hmm. But anyway, the error made on the part of the lawyers at the time, 13 years ago, fucked that line up. So it moved it, but we never knew. We didn't realize, like, we thought we were signing, like, when she signed off on the correction deed, she signed off on basically, oh, okay, this fixes it. Well, no, what it did was they did some sort of calculation wrong, and they were measuring from the wrong part of the street. They should have been measuring from the middle, but they were measuring from the corner. Statute of limitations is run, so there isn't a way to go after the attorneys for anything at this point. But what happened was the people that bought the duplex from us discovered this when they were putting up the fence, that the property lines had moved. Mm-hmm. So they promptly told the neighbor that bought the house from us a few years prior that they owned part of his property where he'd been parking his camper and shit. So then we get drug into the legal dispute because we misrepresented the property as it was sold. Jesus. So we agreed to go in on a survey because, as we remember it was the line was the arborvitae bushes. Mm-hmm. So we agreed to go in on the survey, and the survey says we're wrong. To settle the matter, the guy that bought the duplex wants just $20,000 for this 15-foot strip of land.
Wow.
When it was just a clerical error that wasn't any fault of our own. And like, had we discovered it when we still lived there, we would have just fixed it. It wouldn't have been we wouldn't have been like, ha, well, looks like we'll have to sell that to you for a price.
Right.
We would have just, because we lived in the duplex before we moved from it. And so we would have just paid to have it fixed because that was, wasn't a big deal. But so then the guy comes back and says, well, he had it valued by somebody, and he said he'd take $12,000 for it. Well, we ended up getting a broker to look at it, and they were like, it's maybe worth $2,600. So we're offering basically a settlement that'll hopefully get us there, but it's been a big fucking pain in the ass. And
is this recent?
This is still going on. It's not finalized.
Really?
Yeah. It's a big fucking hassle that we've been dealing with for the past year and a half. And
how is this the first time hearing of it?
Oh, it's never come up.
What a dickhole.
Yeah, and so the neighbor that's doing the whole fucking like leaning on this fucking 15-foot strip of land is an asshole. And so our lawyer, we ended up getting a real estate lawyer after the lawyer that my wife worked for years, who was also the practice that fucked up the deal, the whole thing. But the partner that fucked it up is now retired, and also the statutes run. And so we're going to try to get money from them, even though they aren't probably obligated to do it, but just out of goodwill to see, like, will you pay into this since it's, your firm. Well, there's two firms involved, and they both kind of fucked it up. So
why not just donate the legal work?
Right. And even if he refunded, because he did legal work for us prior to us moving to the real estate attorney, because he couldn't really represent, he wasn't doing a really good job of representing us. Still billed us like $1,000 to fix a mistake he made, or his firm made. So we ended up going to a real estate attorney based out of Moscow, who's done a really good job. A lady, by the way, but also
Vaginas represent.
Yeah, but also she wrote a really good letter, and she kind of articulated all of our points. It's like when we did this out of the interest of looking all above board on everything with regard to and upon lawyers' advice, because Nicole would never take advantage of her uncle, but they're like, well, we just don't want it to look bad. Well, he ended up just dropping dead of a heart attack at 51, and so when he passed away, we inherited everything. And so, but there wasn't a need at that point. We figured we already we split the property, so there wasn't a need to revisit that. And so it ended up in a error in the favor of the person that bought the duplex that already got a sweet deal on the duplex because the appraiser came in so fucking low. They offered us the full asking price that we were asking for that duplex, and then the appraiser came in and like fucking lowballed it. They lowball duplexes all day long.
Yeah.
Because it's a duplex with 2 living quarters, and you would think that you would get. I think we had it priced at like $270, and it's big duplex, garage in the middle. So you separate the two properties from having like sound issues with one another because you're parking in the garages are adjoining, or the garages basically meet in the middle, 2 one-car garages. But it had a full basement and like an upstairs and so bathroom up and down. One side wasn't finished, but the basements were mostly finished on both sides. But one side had 2 bathrooms, one side had 1 bathroom, and then there was 2 bedrooms upstairs, 2 bedrooms down. So it was big. Quite a lot of square footage, and so we thought, 270, 275 was a fair asking price for a duplex of that size. We ended up coming down to like 240, 235, something like that.
Jesus.
It felt like we were giving it away. I know. Well, and if we'd had it we were just tired of being fucking landlords.
I totally understand that.
And so it was more like, do we want to keep on playing this fucking landlord game, or do we just want to get out? And so the idea was just get out.
I wonder if it's worse being local, because when I was doing it, I was on the other side of the country. Well, I had one here and one in Hawaii, And it was just shit.
The
like,
problem
there was
is
no way to fucking do it.
Is even when you live right next door, because we lived next door to the house and next door to the other duplex. We lived in one half of the duplex and another renter lived in the other half. You can fucking go over the fucking rules that you rewrite every time you lose a renter because you're like, okay, this renter fucked this up, so we're going to go ahead and add this to the fucking rental agreement.
This is a living document.
Yes, and so you update, and then you're like, so you're going through everything, and you're like, so we don't like this, we don't like, all these things that like seem like reasonable things, but also the tenants also are like, oh yeah, absolutely, yeah, totally get it, yeah, totally on board with that, yeah, absolutely, yeah. Don't even know why you're asking, like bringing this up. No smoking in the house. Yeah.
Yeah, I won't do lines off the hookers.
Yeah, so
here.
There's all these like things they'll say that they're not going to do that they ultimately end up doing. I won't do that, but I will. I think I'm going to let my boyfriend kick a door in. Is that? Yeah. I'm not going to tell you about that though.
I'm going to raise chipmunks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And hedgehogs in the basement, and keep spiders in the second bedroom.
I'm going to lock my daughter who has a disorder where she can't sleep. Like this lady had because she did drugs. And so her daughter had this issue where I don't even know if she could be medicated for it, but she would not. She basically was this constant ball of fire. But because the mom was clearly not the greatest mom, because of the drug history, would lock the girl in the basement. And so when they moved out, the basement, and there wasn't a bathroom in that particular basement, so the girl would pee we had to have the carpet super over professionally clean. We should have had it pulled out, but I wasn't going to pay to do that. But yeah, I mean, the guy he's like, he went through at the black light and he's like, there's a stain here. I'm like, oh man.
I hate children.
So yeah, so we got really kind of disenchanted over the whole being a landlord thing. We did it for about 15 years and we were ready to be done. It doesn't, it feels, there were times, okay, it was helpful in certain regards because it enabled my wife to go back to school and not have to work full time at the time. When I lost my job, it was like this extra little supplemental piece of income to hold us over until we kind of landed back on our feet. But other than that, it was a constant pain in the ass.
Oh yeah. And you have to take care of things.
Yeah.
You can't
let things go.
Yeah.
And which I wouldn't anyway, but it was one of those things where it's like, oh, man, timing was never good when it came to like renters needing something.
Yeah. Well, and there's times when you can go without for a couple of weeks.
Right.
You can be like, well, I could fix that right now, or I could wait a couple of weeks.
Right.
And there's a holiday coming up and things will go on sale. Or because a renter wants it, you have to do it right now. Right. I can't wait for that sale that will save me 50, 60% or more.
Right.
And so, no. Fuck you, sir.
Oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's my example of... well, I mean, there was a couple examples in there about people just being inherently shitty.
Yeah. And you look at it and you think, oh, God, those people are all terrible. But then you think...
But are they really?
But if I was in that guy's position, I'd want to get as much as I could for that 15-yard strip or 15-foot strip of land, too. I don't know if
I don't know that I'd push the...
I don't know that I
push
would
my
necessarily
agenda.
Financially rape my neighbor, because who knows how long that other guy's going to live there.
Right.
And do I really want my neighbor to hate me over a strip of land?
Or why not grant him an easement of some kind to use it while he's there?
Or just say, you know what? I got a really good deal on this. If you pay to get the error corrected, which is really what should be done. Like, if it was an error If it was a legitimate clerical
Yeah,
error,
it was a clerical error.
Then-
That was what was discovered. Was
then
that
really
it
it should just be filing fees.
it should be like there was something about omissions and something, but basically it should have been filing fees to correct the error. But now it's like it's become this big fucking legal thing. It's because people don't talk anymore. They won't communicate with one another. There isn't such a thing as like neighborly interaction
and
anymore.
you can't, because you don't know if somebody's going to sue you. You don't know how it's going to end.
Yeah.
And anything you say, somebody's going to use or twist or whatever.
Yeah,
but
that tree trimming post that you talked to me about earlier today. One of my coworkers had posted the actual review, and I didn't know the whole circumstances when I made my neighbor comment. I was just like, I hate my neighbor, so
Yeah.
and he's got a tree, and I would like his tree gone. But then she had gotten the comment, so then she like messaged me at work and was like telling me this whole. She's like, told me this whole story about how our neighbor was just a fucking cunt. About the tree. Like, the previous owners couldn't afford to do anything with it, and she wanted to pay to have it taken out, but couldn't because it's not her property. And then, like, she wanted it cut down, but then would make these little underlying, like, threats about, like, well, if my husband goes up and cuts branches, I don't know, you might be at fault if he were to hurt himself while he was doing it. And making these little, like, threatening comments. And then she wouldn't let the tree trimmers come and, like, stand on her roof because she didn't want her roof to get ruined while they cut branches that were hanging over on her side.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I made that comment to you, like, it should have just ended at cut my neighbor.
Yeah.
I didn't know any of that. But I was just making that comment about your neighbor.
Yeah.
But
Shiv.
I'm really lucky with my neighbors. Like, my dad's friend's daughter lives on the other side of one fence. My neighbors on the one side are great.
Well, we've had good neighbors, and I know that good neighbors exist in a world. Like, there's a world where good neighbors exist because I've grown up with grandparents that had good neighbors and parents that had good neighbors. I just haven't seen a lot of it here.
Yeah. Guy and Peggy are awesome. And then the other side's an empty lot, which is amazing. I wish I could put some trees on it.
My neighbor empty lot is the best.
Empty.
I don't even have to say hi.
No, if I could plant some trees over there to just like block some wind and sun, because that's the east side of the property. So I suppose I don't really want to block the sun because it's nice to have it hit there. I don't know, but I guess it would be nice to have some of those taller ones that like grow really close together. It would just block any wind coming from that side.
Let's take a quick break of silence. I have a couple other things I want to go over, but I have to relieve myself.
All right, intermission. Yeah.
You can talk at the...
Yeah, intermission.
Just say intermission.
Doot, 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 doot. One of you comment, say something, ask me a question. I never know what to say when it's just me. I'm never scripted for a solo bit. And normally we had 3 guys, but Ron had a prior engagement. Is my Mara still out there? It doesn't ever tell us who the 3 watchers are. That'd be kind of a nice function. I think that'd be a nice function if it showed us who our 3 watchers were.
Oh, who?
Yeah.
Where from?
Well, I think you could tell where from, right?
You can tell where from. You want a coffee?
Yeah, I'll take a coffee. But I was just saying, ask me a question, and nobody responded, but it'd be nice to know who they were.
Oh, yeah.
Like if it just said, you've got Donatello, Michelangelo, and Raphael. Leonardo is helping Master Splinter with his nunchuck routine. He'd ask Michelangelo because he's the nunchuck guy, but dude can't pay attention long enough to train.
All right. Man, that was a long pee, by the way.
It was. You were gone for a while.
Yeah.
I sang most of intermission.
I thought I was going to make it
Done.
the whole show, and then I was like, it's going to be touch and go. And just end the show and be like, yeah, I peed myself an hour ago.
It was great.
Going to have to throw this couch away. All right, so...
your executive order talk.
Executive order. So President Biden signs executive order to promote racial equality. And when you first read this, or when you read it at all, it's like, to what end? Like,
what are you doing, sir?
Like, and it's not to say that racial equality, like everything is even, like everything's perfect. We've got racial equity. Racial equity. It's all figured out. We've had it figured out for years. I don't know what you're talking about. That's not what I'm saying. But I feel like we've got programs and things in place that have been in place for a while that maybe sure could be tweaked, but at the same time, I feel like this executive order is just it's like the whip on a lemon meringue pie. It's just it's extra topping for no purpose but being extra topping.
It's sprinkles.
It's just sprinkles. It's
not even whip. It's sprinkles because you need that whip on that.
And the sprinkles don't really add any flavor. It's basically saying
something else to get stuck.
Here's something we're doing that we've already been doing that we just maybe could be doing better, but we're going to sign an executive order to say that we care. Like it's just basically to say we're getting something accomplished or we're getting something done. Mm-hmm. And I think I equated it to signing an executive order saying that people should wipe their ass or,
make sure you brush your teeth, America.
Yeah.
If you want to make it to 70,000 years old. Like
so the actual headline from the White House.gov reads Executive Order on Advancing Racial Equity and Support for Underserved Communities Throughout the Federal Government. So do the underserved communities include us whites? I don't think that I'm personally underserved, but I think there are plenty of white communities that are underserved if we're working under that umbrella, but at the same time.
Yeah, like, has he ever been south of the Mason-Dixon line? Because there's some weird shit. Like, there's some weird fucking poor-ass white communities down there.
Right.
Like,
and some of it is self-imposed. I mean, there's a lot of things that, like, people will, you can't fix what you can't fix. Where, you would be talking about kind of like reinventing an entire society in certain regards. Is he talking
about urban blight? I haven't read this.
I haven't either.
Equal opportunity is the bedrock of American democracy, and our diversity is one of the country's greatest strengths. But for too many, the American dream remains out of reach. Entrenched disparities in our laws and public policies and our public and private institutions have often denied that equal opportunity to individuals and communities. Our country faces converging economic, health, and climate crises that have exposed and exacerbated inequities. While a historic movement for justice has highlighted an unbearable human cost of systemic racism. They weren't kidding when they said you hit 40 and your eyes start to go. It's been fucking 3 months, 2 months, a month and a half. Jesus. Our nation deserves an ambitious whole of government equity agenda that matches the scale of the opportunities and challenges that we face. It is therefore the policy of my administration that the federal government should pursue a comprehensive approach to advancing equity for all, including people of color and others who have been historically underserved, marginalized, and adversely affected by persistent poverty and inequality. Affirmatively advancing equity, civil rights, racial justice, and equal opportunity is the responsibility of the whole of our government. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. The government is not there to provide that sort of function. National defense, settling interstate disputes, diplomacy, and an interstate road system.
Yeah.
Absolutely everything else is dependent upon the state that you're in, because each state has completely different needs. Completely different needs. And in the cases of a lot of states like Texas or Montana or California or Alaska, where the size is so immense,
Yeah.
the needs need to be broken down even further, because LA's needs are not the same as Sacramento's needs or San Francisco's needs or some rural community of 150 people in bumfuck nowhere, or
Right, that are farmers or something. Yeah.
You know, the ideas here, trying to govern
On that large of a scale.
400 million people is by pulling the strings on each puppet is not the way you do it.
Right.
You give people the opportunity, you give them equal access to everything, and you do as little as possible on the higher levels and leave it alone.
Well, and the executive order will do nothing until they change the way they run elections too, because they have so much they have so much built into the process, gerrymandering, the electoral college, things like that have broken the fucking elective system to basically mute the voices that they're trying to add credence to.
Oh yeah, this is lip service too.
Yeah, it's word soup is what it is. It doesn't do anything or accomplish anything. It's just saying that it's saying something nice that can't be accomplished unless they change the way the government runs.
For example, an analysis shows that closing racial gaps in wages, housing credit, lending opportunities, and access to higher education would amount to an additional $5 trillion in gross domestic product in the American economy over the next 5 years.
Okay, where's the, for example, but give me the statistic that supports that.
How?
Yeah.
How does that add $5 trillion in gross domestic product? How do you close that gap by signing this paper? By
what analysis? And it's closing racial gaps in wages. And is it racial gaps or is it gaps? Like, I'm not seeing anything that really constitutes an actual.
I'm not even saying this isn't true. I'm just saying there's no fucking proof here.
Right. It's just
an analysis. I can say there's an analysis that says I'm the smartest person in the whole fucking world and you should all just send me $1. All of you, not the two of you watching, but everyone in America.
No, you guys get a pass.
You guys get a pass because you're already supporting the show. No, everyone in America should just send me $1 right now.
Right.
Right now.
Per my analysis.
Yeah, because my analysis said that's true. Cash App. I don't have that. I don't even know how that works. But
that's great.
I have a friend that's always like, cash at me $5.
Yeah. By advancing equity across the federal government, we can create opportunities for the improvement of communities that have been historically underserved. You read that, didn't you?
Which benefits everyone. Yeah.
Which benefits everyone. Okay, then for example.
Analysis.
Yeah. The federal government's goal in advancing equity, I wonder how many times that's actually said in this.
Quite a bit. And then C2, or Section 2, not C2.
21 times.
Equity means the consistent and systematic, fair, just, and impartial treatment of all individuals, including individuals who belong to underserved communities that have been denied such treatment, such as Black, Latino, and Indigenous and Native American persons, Asian Americans and Pacific Islanders, and persons of color. Members of religious minorities, lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, basically anyone who isn't white,
white and heterosexual, and
persons with disabilities. That I guess that includes me because the VA says I'm disabled. persons who live in rural areas, that includes us, and persons who otherwise adversely affected by persistent poverty or inequality.
Well, is this then? That sounds like we want to redistribute wealth. If that's the case, sure.
Yeah, this sounds like by equity you mean you want to redistribute wealth. That doesn't sound proper. Underserved communities refers to a population sharing a particular characteristic. Basically, he's being racist, is what this tells me.
Right.
Biden is a racist.
By not being racist or by saying you're not. And I think that's for a lot of people that are really like on that fucking horse about like, we need to help out these people. And, you know, one of the things I saw repeated so many times on the day of the inauguration was how historic this was because Harris was the first black, the first Asian American, like
the first woman.
And that is good. That is fine. And that's, you know, that's worth noting, but let's leave it to the history books and just, and report it as Michaela Harris, vice president. Why can't it just be that?
Kamala.
I'm sorry.
Michaela.
Michaela's
that little white girl from Ireland.
Anyway, like I see.
No, by calling
it out, it makes it
divisive.
Yes,
that's what they're doing. That's what all of these are doing. He's done over 20 of these already, and he's been president for like 6 days. What day is it? I don't even know what day it is.
Oh, it's Tuesday.
Yeah, but what?
26th, 21st,
okay,
so 5 days.
5 days.
Was it the 21st or the 20th?
He had 19 on his first day.
Yeah. Did you see the thing? Did you see the videos where they're like the paper looks blank, like he's just signing a signature to nothing?
Yeah.
I think it's just the camera.
God,
the white balance on the camera's
people
off.
Have been nonstop.
Yeah.
Trust the plan. Donald Trump's still the president. Trust the plan. Trust the plan. Did you see how the National Guard put their backs to him and they didn't? The military salutes were wrong, and they didn't do the 21 gun salute, and they didn't do this, and they didn't do this. Like,
they didn't. I thought they did do 21 gun salute.
There's breakdowns of why it wasn't the proper one,
and
why it wasn't this, and why it wasn't that, and why.
I had to look that up because I was like, how does somebody that wasn't in the military get a 21? But apparently, anybody that's been a president,
the president
in any other country even can get a 21 gun salute.
Yeah, and the president is the commander-in-chief of all the armed forces.
So basically, they get the title by default.
There's a breakdown of her shoes, his wife's shoes, changing back and forth between different videos. So people are like, this wasn't done live. And there was no one there to confirm it because they had the streets all blocked off. And they said that there was a fireworks display, but my friend was down there as close as you could get, and they didn't hear any fireworks, didn't see any fireworks.
This is for Trump's thing?
No, for
Biden?
For Biden. And, they didn't do this, and they didn't do that.
Yeah, I've seen some stuff about the White House, like it's a movie set.
They're so
because the wallpaper doesn't match it. But you look at the two pictures, and I'm like, yeah, but I could easily dispute that with the like you got two different angles here, too. So maybe the wallpaper...
It could be a different brand of camera catches that color differently.
Right.
Like Canon and Nikon have slight variations in how they pick up color.
Right.
Like there's so many. I mean, I have different coloration variances if I change the light bulbs in the house.
Right.
Or if I'm shooting in here with this bright orange coming up at me from the heat dish. As opposed to when that's off. Yeah. Like when I was up there, I looked all washed out and pale like I normally do, whereas now I look like the Trump. Look how orange I am. Orange man bad. But the main benefit of this presidency is that we're not going to have the news constantly hounding us with, the president said pussy today.
Right. The problem I see with it right now, at least for the foreseeable future, is the self-congratulatory media coverage, and it's going to be.
These people smell in their own fart.
And there's critical stuff, like Fox is still throwing shade. But the shade that Fox is throwing is at benign fucking bullshit they've always thrown shade at the GOP, or at not GOP, but the Dems. So it's nothing. That's nothing new. That's always been there. Mm-hmm. So it's just like Fox is almost probably relieved that they get to go back to
just kind of
what they were, hurling insults at the Dems instead of trying to get behind the Trump horse.
Well, and that's always been such a rough train for them to get on.
Yeah, you saw that they wanted to try, but as things progressed, and especially towards the end of his term, when things got a little bit weird, then people started kind of like backing off that.
I don't think it's going to be a constant battle this time. Like, I don't think they're going to be constantly looking. I know that crazy girl from Georgia has already filed impeachment papers against Biden, but she also has a Q tramp stamp, so she's of questionable intelligence anyway.
Yeah, did you see the article where the one lady that won office is basically getting outed for liking like people's comments about like we should a bullet to the head of Pelosi and stuff like that would. I can't remember what.
Really?
It was a lady that was elected that previously had liked comments to that effect long ago. That's why social media is going to be the downfall of a lot of people, and I'm really surprised that it comes out after a person's been elected rather than before.
No, I think the people who
it's probably strategic in that it's done that way.
They hold off until they're elected, and then. Because it erodes
to make them a
faith in the system.
Right.
I mean, this is...
No, you're right.
This election has been so questioned. And there are people who will never believe that it's true. And that's why they won't do an audit. They probably...
This one was more questioned than the first one, or than the one that Trump won, which deemed more questioning because of the Russian interference.
Yeah, Russian collusion. Collusion.
But, you know, he raised so many flags that ended up being, I wouldn't say false, because you just don't know. But they were certainly disproved by the mainstream media, but certain people will adhere to their belief that they were disproved by the mainstream media as a ploy to get him out of office, and that's going to be the through line for that argument for years to come.
Yeah, well, but look at the difference though. Like, we have Biden sniffing children and groping little girls on the Senate floor on C-SPAN, and it just he's Teflon, right? Nobody gives a shit. Yeah. No one cares. And Trump said something to a dude on a tour bus about, God, they'll just let you grab him by the pussy.
Well,
and that never went away. Like, that made women knit caps that look like vaginas and wear them in parades.
Right.
And Biden molested children on C-SPAN. His son was fucking underage girls on videos that people were sharing on Twitter, and smoking crack with a crack whore, and no one cares.
Right. Well, and it's because
the difference is just immense.
It's because he's like the guy that goes to church every Sunday. Like, he's the average American that goes to church every Sunday, that repents their sins, but then spends the week doing whatever.
Well, and he claims to be Catholic.
Right.
And no one cares. No one cares. But when Amy Coney Barrett was Catholic, when she was trying to be a justice, a supreme, they're like, no, she's Catholic. She's going to push her agenda. You just elected a Catholic president.
Right.
I get that he's not. Like,
right. Well, no. What they want
Catholic and then fund abortion. Like, it doesn't work that way. You're not even a Christian.
They want another Kennedy. And fuck.
You think the CIA is going to kill him too?
I don't know. But I don't like. It's weird because
I mean,
why a 70-some-year-old Kennedy? Are we just not able to find someone that's young enough and charismatic enough for people to get behind? Is it because people are living longer?
If the CIA
because
was going to kill another president, I think they would have taken Andrew Yang out.
Had he been elected?
They would have pushed him. Like he would have been the one that the party put up. I don't think Biden's going to be a public sacrifice like Kennedy was.
No, I don't think. I still think he's going to step down in enough time for Kamala to have.
I
10
think
years.
he's deep enough in dementia. They'll probably just let him have a health crisis, and he'll just die in office. If they can, they'll let him go the 2 years so she can do 10.
Well, that's what. Yeah, I think she's gonna. They're gonna hope that she can do 10.
If the prognosis is bad enough, I think he'll go out within the first 6 months of his presidency.
Really?
Yeah, because they'll want her in as long as they can have her.
Yeah.
And if they can't have her for 10, they'll take her for 7 and.
Well, they're gonna have to forecast what the prospects are. I was watching a thing. I can't remember what I was watching, but it's basically you had Democrats running shit for a few years, and then an overwhelming amount of Republican run stuff after. I can't remember what period of time that was, but basically Republicans aren't down and out, and everybody always says, well, this is the end of the Republican Party, but they're not. They just have to reinvent
the Senate's like half and half.
Their fucking thing. And what's kind of scary is the idea that Trump fostered is having that more outlandish type behavior. Mm-hmm. And kind of shoot from the hip type behavior that's appealing to a lot of people, which is proven by the fact that he got 74 million votes.
Yeah, he still had like a record-breaking amount.
Imagine if his personality appealed to people.
Yeah.
To
he is not an appealing person.
If he had an appealing imagine if he had a personality like Biden, where he could present himself in such a way. I'm not saying that Biden is a personality that I adhere to. Clinton's a good example, right?
Excellent example. Not Hillary.
She's a snake.
She's an awful human being, and it just exudes from her. She's so different from her husband, and he's not a good person. But boy, is he just charismatic. Like you see him on TV, You're like, I could go to a barbecue with that guy and be all right.
Had Trump been charismatic, and I've talked about the idea. I think if we didn't talk about it last show, I know I meant to. The whole 50%, the 50-50 divide with our elections anymore seems to be manufactured to some degree. Mm-hmm. But I feel like if Trump had a little bit more charisma, he would have, or any charisma, he could have broken that divide. But I think it's manufactured to some degree.
Yeah, and I don't
through gerrymandering and other.
I don't think that any of them.
If we know we have swing states, if we have states that can swing an election, that's by design.
Yeah.
If you can't appeal to a candidate on a statewide or countywide basis based on whatever their platform they're running on is, regardless of their political leaning or their party, then there's an issue there. And I think if we got away with, we brought this up last episode. I think a third party, a middle of the line type of third party, would really be the most successful party to run the country, because I think everybody ultimately is all pretty well middle of the line. There's certainly people that have really far right or far left leanings, but there are definitely people, the majority of people I feel land somewhere in the middle.
I want to think that.
That's.
But I don't know. Like
that's what I want to think, because that's kind of how I am. So it's like I want to think that people will think as reasonably as I do about things, but maybe not. This has shaken my faith in that notion a little bit this past election.
Just like I want to believe that there's more people who are not worried about things. Like I'm not.
Right.
But I don't like, the more that I see, I don't think that. You listen to the people who wrote into the city council last night. Like, I think you need to extend this mask mandate and you need to give it some teeth. Well, there were a couple of our shitbag city councilors that said that exact line. We need to give it some teeth. We need to make these fines $1,000. How about you go eat a fucking pile of shit, councilman?
Here's what
Councilman Bob Blakey, you shit-eating piece of shit, you fat bastard. He doesn't wear his goddamn mask in the gym because he can social distance. How about you get your fine, you belly up to the bar, and pay your fine, you fat cunt. I hate that dude. I've hated that
really?
dude. Yeah, I've hated that dude.
I couldn't tell.
I met him the first time I met him was like in '92 at a United Way function.
Does he live locally?
Yeah. Yeah, I met him at a United Way function, and he's a piece of shit. He's a big, fat fucking baby. And I knew at 12 years old he was a piece of shit, and he's never, ever proven otherwise. I hate that fucking guy. I hope he loses the next election and fades away into obscurity, or maybe one of those chunks of fat in his heart lets go, and he just fucking gives this town a break. What a piece of shit. And that old bastard Judge Bradbury disappears too. What a fucking piece of shit. I had some faith that guy was going to be all right when he started digging into the missing money up at the golf course. They owe the city like $9 million or something for back.
Yeah. I remember us talking about that.
And he just dropped that in favor of his fucking mask mandates. What a son of a bitch.
He's just a person who likes to make noise, and he leans towards the favoring opinion. But I think it really is.
I got mad.
It's the popular opinion, but it's also not the populist opinion about the masks. I feel like a lot of misinformation early on is what led to where we're at today. Had there been more clear communication from the beginning about whether or not a mask would be effective or have any kind of efficacy at all, would have been appropriate. If they had done that and established that A, yes it does, or B, no it doesn't, but there was all this waffling between the two opinions coming from the same people, including Fauci. I like Fauci's personality just because he just seems like kind of a normal guy, but he came from a position that was, I guess, unapologetic. Like, he made mistakes and didn't apologize for them. He just kind of like pushed it off onto
the administration.
He specifically
said he lied at the beginning. So either he lied or he was wrong.
Yeah.
But he specifically said, well, I lied about the masks at the beginning so that people wouldn't run on them like they did toilet paper.
Right.
So you lied to the American people.
But had we been masked, or had we been masked in some form or another, whether people ran on them or not, I feel like had something been done sooner, we'd be done with this fucking
I don't think so.
Mess.
Because I don't think it works. Because it's a 99.7% survivability rate.
But if people had stayed inside and actually done what they were supposed to do, like what was being asked of them to do, not what could argue.
I think if we would have gone about our lives, nothing would have happened.
That's a fair argument too.
I don't think anything would have changed. I think more people would have gotten it early on, and it would have just gone away.
Well, what happened, what I think is funny is we reacted right at the beginning and did all this stuff, and we still had all these cases climbing climbing. And now more people are dying now, supposedly.
A full year later.
A full year later, but it's because in part, all of those things were abandoned.
But they were yelling about kids going on spring break.
Right.
Oh, you're going to murder grandma and grandpa because you had to go to the beach. There was no huge uptick. There was no wild death run.
But I think
there was no increase in deaths last year.
They've argued that that's not accurate, but I don't know. I don't know who they is, but
and the CDC just in the last week has said we may have miscalculated the amount of deaths by COVID.
Well,
Really?
they're testing COVID to everybody that dies.
Yeah.
Even Larry King died. Rest in peace, Larry King.
Now that old guy.
But he was hospitalized for COVID. But he was also 87.
He was also
87.
9,000 years old.
And that's the same thing with
someone shattered his phylactery, and he finally died for real.
Right.
Like Larry King was a legitimate old undead goblin thing.
Right.
And I'm not going to pretend like he was a good person either.
No, I don't think so. I think Larry King strikes me as a guy that has his skeletons and is a skeleton.
Yeah.
Was a skeleton.
Now he's just a skeleton.
Almost immediately
Yeah.
upon his death, he just kind of evaporated
He pulled
into
one of
bones.
those, like he drank from the wrong cup.
But no, they talk about the playbook, and I don't think we need to be on a playbook necessarily, but I think that had it been managed better initially, and I don't put it all on Trump, I don't put it all on any one person. I think the country as a whole is this melting pot of failure. I think we're destined to fail because we're all self-involved assholes to a certain degree, and I think that nothing's going to change that fact. Nobody, half the country doesn't there's a good faction of the country that's like, we should do what the bosses say, and then there's that other chunk of the country that's like, don't tell me what to do.
Yeah.
And I'm in the don't tell me what to do pool. I'm also in the reasonable, I'll be reasonable. I bought into the mask thing for a while, and I'll wear a mask when I go in public because I'm not going to fucking create havoc where I don't need to. Right. I go play hockey. I don't wear a mask into the building. I'd get made fun of if I did. What would be the point? But also, if I go to the grocery store and they say mask is required, I have to buy groceries there. I'm not going to create a scene. I just need to get in and get out.
Also, they don't really harass you at the grocery store.
I think Rosar's is a little more strict on it than Winco is. Partially because of their elderly clientele, I think. Because they have really in your face masks right on the front, right in the front door right as you walk in.
Yeah.
Masks required, medical reasons, blah blah blah, are accepted or whatever. So
yeah.
I could cite a reason if I wanted to, but I'm just getting in, getting out, and on my way.
You'd prefer not to get accosted.
And I just rather not get shamed by somebody who is a masker, and people that are anti-mask. I haven't been told, there hasn't been anybody that's come up to me since this whole thing started, seeing me in a mask, that said, "Hey, what are you wearing a mask for, pussy?"
Yeah, I haven't had any problem with anti-maskers. There's a couple that are a little overboard, but a good deal of them keep that to themselves.
Right.
I keep most.
If I was having a conversation with people,
home.
They would have I'm sure I could get people's ire about draw their ire for it, but people leave people alone for the most part when it comes to that stuff, except for like I think anti-maskers, or not anti-maskers, but the people that want you to wear a mask. I think they're louder about it.
They are, and they're nasty,
and almost to an obnoxious point.
And the only reason is because they're terrified, and they try and project that fear onto the non-masked population. They try and say, "Oh, you're just scared to wear a mask." No, I'm not. But I'm also don't need a face diaper. Like I don't. I'm not that guy. I'm not scared of a little bug. I'm not. I've been exposed several times. I'm pretty sure I had it in March, which means I'm immune. I don't care if
maybe not forever though. You might get it,
man. Well, then it's a good thing that the antibodies have been made once because my body knows how to make them, and so it can also.
Right. What do you think
things.
The vaccines are just it's the spike protein that they're wanting to.
Some of them are fucking like DNA editing shit that makes it so your body has to fight something different that's somewhat similar. Like they're all fucking weird. I don't want to try that shit.
Well, I'm fucking the Johnson & Johnson vaccine.
What's that one?
That's the one that hasn't come out yet, but that's the one they're pushing for next. Johnson & Johnson has some ties to some fucking negative shit. Fucking the baby powder
thing.
The baby powder that gives baby cancer. And there's Johnson & Johnson, wasn't that Procter & Gamble? Didn't Procter & Gamble have a fucking shit storm happen in the 90s?
Haven't they all?
Surrounded?
Is there a big corporation that hasn't?
Right. Well, Monsanto's pretty good.
Yeah, oh yeah, they're fantastic. I hadn't heard anything about Monsanto until I lived in Hawaii, and then it was like they hate them over there.
I hadn't heard anything about Monsanto until I heard somebody say something about Monsanto a few years back. Like not too many years ago. Someone was like, yeah, blah, 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 and Monsanto, and I'm like, so then I had to like Google Monsanto to figure out what the fucking deal was.
Yeah.
I still don't really know. I just know that it's a push button topic about chemicals and food and shit.
They put shrimp DNA into their wheat or something because it keeps bugs out, and turns out their wheat now kills everybody who has shrimp allergies. It's fucking terrible. So a lot of people who think they have gluten allergies are actually just allergic to shellfish.
That's
That's why bread hurts them. It's fucking weird.
What's Monsanto responsible for? Are they like Franz bread and shit like that, or are they just everywhere? Is Monsanto in everything?
Yeah.
It's like Soil and Green?
Yeah. It's people. No, I'm pretty sure they were involved in a lot of weapons manufacturing and like chemical weapons and shit back in the day, and then they suddenly got into food production, and now they're just all about genetically modified food.
Yeah.
And to the point where like they'll go pick your wheat out of your field and test it to see if it contains their strain, and then they'll sue you for growing their stuff without paying their fee. That's how they got a hold of so much land.
Isn't there a Dennis Quaid movie about that?
Probably.
Something about crops and
there's a couple
like
of
a seed strain or something.
Various Robin Hood TV series like Leverage and such, where a Monsanto style corporation is stealing people's whatnot.
Well, that brings us on. You want to get out of here?
Yeah, I gotta go.
Okay,
I gotta go put Mara to bed.
You want to visit the global consciousness thing next episode?
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's tease that. So next episode, we're going to talk about global consciousness. As always, we never run out of anything to talk about. We can talk. We could have come in tonight without any topics to discuss and still been just fine. But here we are. So we're going to exit this episode, and we will catch you next time.
Oh, there it goes.
There's that outro music. But anyway, timespentpoorly.com is the website you can find us if you want to find all of our where we stream from. Listen to this if you're watching and you want to listen. You can go there and subscribe to the podcast form, the audio form, and we break it into smaller chunks so that it's more easily digestible, because we can sit here and spin a yarn for hours on end. So, but again, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Hudds, for joining me tonight. This has been a fun episode, as always. Ron will be back next episode, I expect.
Yeah.
Unless
somebody else has a birthday.
Right. But other than that, we've got some good stuff on the agenda coming in the upcoming episodes, and so we've got this global consciousness thing we'll revisit. We're gonna do some Oscar talk coming up in the next episodes or in the next show. So we've got plenty to talk about. Again,
love me some parapsychology experiments.
Yeah. All right. Thanks so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time. I'm at TSPN Media. He's at Hudds Magruder on Twitter, and I think I'll hand it over to the Beard to finish this one out. Later.